This is not a movie review. This is a movie poster review. In fact, some of these movies aren't even out yet, but some of y'all came for me in the comments last time I made a video like,
he's not even talking about the movie.
The purpose of this video is for us to look at 5 new pieces of key art and teaser posters to understand what makes an effective piece of key art. We're going to dissect each of these 5 posters so that you can understand how to apply design elements and principles to improve your work as a key art designer or a graphic designer. And by the way, if you're new here, I'm Eric, a key art and brand designer based in New York City. And I create videos to show you what it's like working as a freelance designer in entertainment. Now, the first poster that we're going to be taking a look at here is Captain America: Brave New World, which comes out on February 14th. I personally was a big fan of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series on Disney+, and now that Sam Wilson has fully stepped into his role as Captain America, we're getting his first full-length feature film as the character. And what works so well about this teaser poster is the fact that we're just seeing the giant fist of the Red Hulk slamming into Sam Wilson's shield. Now, speaking of his fist smashing into the shield, a really useful device here is the use of the sparks that are flying off from that collision. This does a really good job of showing us the forcefulness of this impact, and it also adds some nice energy to the poster. In addition to that, you'll notice that the blurred sky and the angled composition actually make this teaser poster feel quite a bit more dynamic. And this is a really useful technique for adding movement and making something feel more alive, especially when you're working on a static image like this. Now, the next poster that I want to talk to you about is a really fun one, and it's called Paddington in Peru. The first thing that you might notice is the fact that there's like 10 characters on this poster, if you include the helicopter. And that's actually really hard to do on a movie poster or a teaser, especially if you don't want it to just be a bunch of floating heads. Why is that so difficult to do? Well, not only do you have limited real estate here where you have to balance the title treatment, the credits, the actors in the movie, but you also need to treat each character individually as far as the way that you retouch and light them. So this poster does that exceptionally well because when you look at all of these characters, it looks realistic and believable, like they were actually in the same scene together. Now, speaking of that, not only is Paddington a CGI bear, but he feels integrated into this scene very seamlessly as well. And that's something that can be tricky to do when you're balancing real photography with CGI characters. Now, in addition to that, you'll notice that we have a lot of movement going on in this poster. Just like we saw in the Captain America: Brave New World poster, you'll notice that there's an angle or a tilt happening, which makes the poster feel more alive, more dynamic, and energetic. As we see Paddington hanging off the side of the boat here with the umbrella, and we also have some water splashing towards us in the foreground. Now, this is, again, another interesting device that you can use in any of your designs to add depth. Speaking of depth, you'll also notice there's a really good use of atmospheric perspective. And if you're not familiar with that term and what it means, it's basically showing us that objects that are closer to us in the foreground have much more contrast, they're sharper, they're more saturated, whereas the mountains and the landscape in the distance tend to be less saturated, less bright, and a little bit less sharp. So this poster is doing all of those things really well. The next movie that I want to talk to you about is Cleaner. This is a movie that drops on February 21st, and it stars Clive Owen and Daisy Ridley. The first thing that you'll notice about this poster is the great use of negative space. I think this is a trend we're going to see more of in 2025. And one of the reasons why it works so well is because you have some areas with a lot more detail, and then you also have some areas where you're giving the viewer's eye a chance to rest. Now, in addition to the great use of negative space here, I also want to point out things like balance and repetition. If you'll notice, Daisy Ridley, the main character, is the largest and most prominent figure in this composition. But directly below her, you have Clive Owen, who is the second largest, and then you have characters getting smaller and smaller all the way down to the bottom of the poster. You'll notice that this feels very balanced because the characters are also looking different ways, alternating from the top down to the bottom. Now, this is a really clever use of balance and repetition, and it's something that most people might not even pick up on, but it gives you an opportunity to place some scenes behind each of the characters that balances out the portrait shots of each character. We also have something here that's pretty interesting and adds a lot of excitement and motion to the poster. Can you guess what it is? It's the shattered glass. And you might notice a pattern here because in Captain America, we saw flying sparks. With Paddington in Peru, we had these water splashes coming very close to the viewer. And now we have these shattered glass pieces that add some level of energy and motion to the poster. Now, this also is a nice touch because the premise of the movie is that our main character, played by Daisy, is a window cleaner. So it ties in nicely here while showing that large tower that fades into her shot at the very top of the poster. Something else that I want to point out here is the nice use of color. It seems like a fairly limited color palette, and it uses these nice off-white colors balanced with these softer blues. And it feels very balanced and clean.
See what I did there? Clean. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
The next poster that I want to look at and dissect with you is The Monkey. Wow, does this poster give me the creeps? But it does exactly what it's supposed to do because it's creepy AF. But what I love about this poster is the typography. Notice how everything is sort of unbalanced but aligned and off-center. Using these uneven letters and typefaces, along with the limited use of color, really creates this feeling of unease and tension. Now, in addition to that, I really love the way that we are seeing negative space being used once again, just like we saw in the poster for Cleaner. You'll notice that there's some areas of detail where your eye goes directly to the type and to this creepy monkey in the corner, but your eye kind of goes in a diagonal, and it still has plenty of room to rest. Speaking of leading the eye and the diagonals, you'll notice the clever use of the shadow here that's being cast over this creepy monkey's face. Using this diagonal is very similar to some of the other posters we looked at where things were tilted in the composition, adding more movement, more energy, and making this composition feel dynamic despite the fact that it's just a static image. Now, when you throw in the fact that this is a Stephen King movie and you've got Theo James and Elijah Wood, I'm really excited about this film, and the teaser poster does exactly what it's supposed to do. So I hope it sticks the landing. The fifth and final teaser poster that I want to dissect with you today is for a new series coming to Apple TV on February 14th, and this is called The Gorge. Now, I'm really excited for this one because it's got Anya Taylor-Joy and Sigourney Weaver. I mean, sign me up. Now, this teaser poster really gives me some retro horror movie vibes. Not only because we see this creepy ass hand in the foreground from this creature, but it really creates a lot of suspense and mystery, making me wonder what these things look like. You'll also notice in this poster that it's using alignment very well. I mean, look how centered everything is in this poster. Going from the foreground where we see this creature's hand to the gorge, then this watchtower, and then the title treatment, all centered very nicely and evenly in this poster. Now, another thing that you might not pick up on right away with a poster like this is the limited use of color. It's using these very cool colors and hues like blues, pinks, and purples, and then the only other area where we have another color happening is from the light in the watchtower. And if you zoom in and look closely, you can actually see somebody in the watchtower here. So that's a really nice detail. Another thing that I love about this poster is the fact that we have the nice title treatment, which is seamlessly integrated into the scene. I personally love when title treatments do this, when they feel like they're part of the scene or the environment, and there's just enough contrast there to make it still easy to read. You've got a lot of contrast happening at the top of the letters, and then it becomes a little bit less and less as it blends in with the trees in the center of the composition. So all of these things really add to the creepy and mysterious vibes of the poster. And I, for one, am very excited to check out this new series on Apple TV. These are just some of the things that I noticed when I look at these teaser posters and pieces of amazing key art, and I wanted to go through them with you to show you what makes them so effective. So hopefully going through this video together, you'll see how you can apply some of your design elements and principles to start making your compositions feel stronger and more professional looking. Whether you're a designer or an aspiring key art designer, these are the tips that will help you go from a beginner to a pro. Let me know in the comments below what you noticed about these posters. Was there anything else that you saw? Anything I might have missed? Let me know. If you're interested in seeing my process for how I go about creating a key art poster, then check out this video next. All right, creative. Thank you so much for watching. Keep designing, and we'll see you in the next one.